Hello everyone, and welcome back to Fireside Forge. It's been a little while, but today I should introduce myself first. I'm Citrine, also known as the Armored Sloth, and today I'm here with Tangle and also Jan. Today's topic of discussion is adult animation, but specifically, or at least we're mostly, going to focus on stuff from this year, which at the time of recording, it is currently the end of 2023. Can't tell you when you're going to hear this, but for reference, that's what we're talking about.
Okay, yeah, basically.
Okay.
So for this podcast, both Jan and I think we both watched Blue Eye Samurai and Scott Pilgrim. I made Citrine finish Scott Pilgrim, and I made her watch the first episode of Blue Eye, just so that she has a little bit of context.
Yeah.
I wouldn't mind talking about Invincible, but I think I'm the only one who's fully caught up on that right now.
I've seen exactly zero of Invincible.
And Fionna and Cake, I don't know if I want to get into that now or make my own video about it, to be honest. So
I still haven't seen all of Fiona and Cake, unfortunately. I'm like halfway through. I might literally just finish watching it as soon as we're off call, TBH.
Okay.
Yeah, bet.
Wait, actually, okay, before Jan and I go off, because we both have had time to, have opinions and, yell at each other over DMs, what was your opinion on Scott Pilgrim?
You made me swallow my gum. Gonna be in my digestive tract for 7 years!
I mean, I really liked Scott Pilgrim, but, I feel as though I'm a little biased, only because, the animation is so good that you have to get past how good the animation is before you start lobbying criticisms.
That's true.
But, I enjoyed it a lot, thought it was pretty cool.
Yeah, I thought it was a really good adaptation.
Yeah, I mean, I wish I had more to say about that. I thought it was pretty cool.
About how you were down bad for Scott.
I was down apocalyptic for Scott. It's so embarrassing.
Wow.
That is embarrassing.
He's really cute. I don't know what to tell you.
He's a walking red flag. That's literally the point of the thing.
Good thing red is my favorite color.
Bruh.
Girl.
Oh my god.
And it's okay, I totally get, this is just me being biased here, but I totally get that the point is to sort of deconstruct it and look at it from Ramona's point of view, because I don't think the comic really does that, and neither does the live action. I just wish we'd seen a little more of Scott, because I like him so much. I'm like, dang, he was gone for the whole year.
Yeah, they really said Scott Pilgrim takes off, and he did.
And he really did take off.
And then I watched the end of episode 1 and I immediately DM Tangle going, Yo! I lost my boy! Where's my boy?
Yeah, that was crazy, because I follow the guy who made the comic on Instagram, and he was like, hey, this is gonna be a little bit different, it's not gonna be a straight adaptation, and I was like, I wonder what he means by that. and then when I was watching it, I was like, yeah, okay, I get what he means by that. But I think it was really cool. In the original source material and in the movie, you don't get to see a lot about Ramona and her own feelings, and the exes are kind of one-note characters, so I think they do a really good job of making Ramona a bit more likable, and also expanding on all of the exes as having their own personalities, and also acknowledging the fact that Ramona kind of did all of them dirty, with the exception of probably Gideon. They did nothing to deserve just being broken up with in the way that she did. She straight up just left most of them.
What was the name of that beefcake guy?
Lucas Lee?
Yeah, she did Lucas Lee so dirty. He didn't even do anything wrong, man.
Also, okay, not to be a nerd, but it's really interesting how Ramona points out that she runs away from the things that she loves. And that is a consistent pattern that even older Ramona kind of does. But it's really interesting that because Scott is not there to pursue her for most of the show, she's forced to actually be okay, I have to learn about Scott. And I'm forced to confront my past and learn that about myself, that I run away from everything that I love, which I'm that's super interesting.
No, I do genuinely appreciate that angle, because my memories of the original movie are kind of foggy, because I think the last time I watched it, my dad just kind of casually put it on 6 years ago at the minimum. We kind of just got Ramona and Scott just kind of like each other, but there's no real development of it. He's just oh, I like girl like boy, oh, gotta beat up the people, and oh, gosh, I can't remember where I was going with this.
Yeah, I think focusing on Ramona was the right call, honestly. Because it does, I feel the source material mostly focuses on Scott, and, he's also a red flag. I'm not gonna just rag on Ramona. One, why are you dating a 17-year-old, bro? And also, I feel he just has a similar issue where it's why are you being so crappy to all these women for no reason? Especially, okay, I'm a Kim Pine apologist. She has every right to be mean to him and mean to the world. She needs to hate to live, and I love her. She did not deserve that. She did not deserve that from Scott at all. But neither did Knives. Knives did not
Knives
deserve that
in
either.
what's
So.
their name, like just like vibing over the music was actually really good.
Yeah, I was part of that made me really nervous because in the comic there's like a scene where both of them accidentally get drunk and they make out in a closet, and I was like, I hope that they don't bring that back. And Scott finds them and he just like he knows like and he never brings it up. And I'm like, bro, that's weird. And then the thing with Roxy in episode 3. Good lord. Anyway, yeah, so Kim, I know what you are. Anyway, yeah, but it was really good. I liked it. Also, the X's being like, obviously, okay, the thing I really like about Scott Pilgrim that I didn't really notice as a kid is that like everybody in the series is kind of a bad person. like Lucas Lee is a jerk, Gideon is like a weird psychopath, Kim made out with a 17-year-old. Even all the exes, like they all joined a league of evil exes instead of like moving on and getting like therapy or something. And like even when they fight Scott, they're like, oh well, if we fight Scott, then we can get back with Ramona. And it's like, okay, well like that's Ramona's choice.
The first guy who thought he killed Scott was like, okay, we can date now. And Ramona was like, no. like, I don't know what you were expecting there, buddy.
Yeah, like, I was like, why do you think you're entitled to go and date Ramona again? Because you beat up her not yet boyfriend. Like, that's weird. That's really weird.
Gosh, I'm glad that, like, he got, like, kind of a spotlight in the story, because in the movie, he's there for 2 seconds.
Yeah, they really did a lot with Matthew Patel, which is, like, crazy. Like, even, I was not expecting him to actually, like, beat Gideon and, like, take over the whole empire. But I'm glad they did it. It worked.
Uno reversal. I really liked it.
And the Gideon thing was really interesting, because, like, he reverted to just like the most sopping wet pathetic man in existence without his love, which, okay, I know I saw a lot of people kind of disagreeing with that. They're like, Gideon's always been this like super powerful egomaniac, and I'm like, I always read him as like a nerd that got his hands on too much money, so this kind of makes like this kind of like turn in his character always made like it made sense to me personally. Like, I don't think that was out of the blue, and like the backstory that they gave him kind of like confirms that. He was just like one of those nerds that grows up to like have a cushy IT job and has a bunch of money now, and like
Based.
You know what I mean? Like
Gideon based.
Gideon based and not cringe. Yeah, it's really good. I also, the studio that did the animation production, I follow them on Twitter now because they're so good.
Okay, bet.
And I think it's like the style does a really good job of like combining the comic style with more of like it's more of like a hybrid between like the author's art style and like kind of like a panty stocking.
Yeah, it definitely has that look. Also,
Yeah.
like, there's this thing where, like, you know, when you have stuff in the foreground, you know, it's clear, and when you have stuff in the background, it's normally less clear.
Yeah.
But also, when they get too close to the camera, they get a little blurry in this like really interesting way. Like the way that they played around with that stuff was really interesting. I was like, I could actually watch this all day.
Like with the compositing.
Yeah, it's really cool.
All the music is really good too.
Yeah, the soundtrack.
And they brought back songs from the movie, which I thought was really cool. Like, you can tell a lot of like care was put into it. They weren't just like, okay, it's time to Scott Pilgrim again, but they were like, okay, like these are the things that we like
because
from.
It keeps coming back.
It's a story that I feel like it has that versatility. I think.
I mean, I've literally been seeing it since I was a child. So I'm like, yeah, just over and over again to keep getting these adaptions.
I was gonna say something and I forgot.
I had a video game. Whatever happened to that video game?
I know for a while it was Lost Media, like, because it was like an Xbox exclusive.
I have no idea.
I think
I'm gonna find out.
Yeah, you can look that up.
Yeah, I think it came back. Here it is on Steam.
Speaking of Kim being an absolute menace to society, her ending in this game is her running off and getting married to Knive, which I'm like, that's like, look up the endings for this game. They are wild. I think Scott's ending is he becomes like a harem protagonist, like he's dating Knives and Kim and I think Ramona all at once. I think what gets closest to the true ending is Ramona's ending, but all the other ones are just kind of wacky. Like in Knives' ending, she marries Scott and he doesn't really seem all that thrilled to be there.
Is this like freaking like one of those like Mortal Kombat games where like the protagonist you choose determines like which route you try to get?
I think so. Like I think there are different endings based on the character. I've also heard the game is really hard.
Yeah, I just remember seeing drama about it, you know, popping up and disappearing and popping up and disappearing.
I had heard that there was a game, but I was like, I'm not gonna play video games, so I didn't play it.
See, that's where you go wrong.
That's because I'm not good at video games. Like I'm good at like Pokemon. Like anything that requires like hand-eye coordination, I'm not that good at it. Besides Mario Kart, I'm actually pretty decent at Mario Kart. Other than that, I'm like, I can't, like, I don't know what game you tried to teach me to play that I just could not play. Like I just wasn't getting it.
Do you have any idea how little that narrows it down?
Yeah, I don't know. I know there was that time you tried to teach me Smash.
That was a waste of time. That was an abject waste of time, and I shouldn't even bother doing that.
Because I wanted to play Rosalina, but
Yeah, but she's like one of the hardest characters in the game.
Yeah, I
How
know.
about Kirby? Here, have some Kirby.
I didn't want to be Kirby. I wanted to be Rosalina.
I feel like you would do well. I'll probably put you on it at some point before you leave, but you would do well with Darkest Dungeon because that's like all brain and no.
Okay, I can do that. I can
It's
do
all
games that are just
strategy,
like
yeah.
observation and like that kind of thing, but hand-eye, it's a wash most of the time for me.
Yeah, we gonna get you on some turn-based games. Don't even worry about it.
Okay, also,
Well-
wait. Speaking of characters, I need to shout out my girl Roxy because episode 3 was one of the best episodes in the season, and I will not be silenced. They gave her like actual motivation and a backstory because in the movie and sort of in the comic, I think more in the movie, they kind of like dismissed her as like a phase, but it's like no, like Ramona actually did love her. And like they did have a thing, and Ramona did that thing that she does when she leaves, and Roxy was all like she was more than valid to be hurt by that, and I will stand by that.
I don't want to fight you, Roxy.
Gonna run away like you did back then.
Yeah, I think at the end of that episode, I was like, wait a minute. It's actually Ramona. I came into it with this
Ramona's
like
the problem.
yeah, like I came into it because I think I came basically directly off the comics because like I've seen
Did you see?
I've seen enough of the movie. I've seen maybe like 75 to 80% of the movie, but like not the entire thing. But like I was coming into it like, okay, the X's are being crazy and they're wrong. But actually, the X's are being crazy and they're right. Ramona is the problem. And I'm like, oh, I see. I get it now.
And it's crazy, okay, because like the show acknowledges that when I don't think the comic or the movie do. They're like, oh well, Ramona has these 7 evil exes and they're crazy, and like I think they all do point out the fact that she kind of like how they broke up is kind of the same. Like she kind of left them, but like it's very glossed over as far as I remember. But in this, they're like, no, like you caused very real pain to all of these people, except for I guess Gideon because he was kind of crazy. But even okay, and I really liked the ending because it kind of established that like yeah, Ramona does love Scott, but even in the future when they're married, like she still has to fight against that compulsion to like not address things and just run away when things get hard or boring or whatever. And I thought that was really good because she's like, okay, well, like I do love Scott and I do want to make this work. And even after 10 years apart, like I do want to see if we can still make this work.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, that's great. Like that's good. And like when she becomes Super Ramona, like
Just like in Sonic the Hedgehog.
just like in Sonic the Hedgehog. Like she reconciles her past self with her future self and she's like, hey, like who we were doesn't have to be who we are, and there's always a chance to fix a mess, which like not to be Christian or Maine, but it's a little gospel-y, I'm not gonna lie. And also like it acknowledges, even though Scott wasn't there for most of the show, it does acknowledge his like kind of inability to grow up in a way, and like his inability to take accountability. Like
Apparently dating a 17-year-old is frowned upon by
'Cause I'm like-
society.
because you're like that seems like an apology, but when you think about it,
It's
the
not.
problem is not that dating a 17-year-old is frowned upon by society. It's that a 23-year-old should not be dating a 17-year-old regardless of
Who cares what society thinks?
yeah. So like even in that apology, he fails to take accountability. And the fact that old Scott like was the villain this whole time kind of reflects that, especially his inability to grow up. Because it's like, okay, like instead of trying to work things out with your wife, you move back in with Wallace and you do all of this crazy stuff and almost end up killing everybody in the past instead of like actually solving your problem like an adult. Like
Becomes
that-
Mortal Kombat villain.
Yeah. So I'm like, that's crazy. But it works. And Scott's like, hey, like you gotta let me make my own decisions, which I'm like, that's great. Because like you like, I don't know, like relationships are hard and they probably are gonna mess up and they might get to this point in the future where they're not talking to each other. But like if it's meant to work out, it'll work, it'll work out. You can't go back in time and stop yourself from making bad decisions. Because like as a Christian TM, I don't think that sin is an inherent part of this world and it's not a thing that belongs in this world. But like the gracious part about it is that God allows the mistakes and the sin and the bad things in our life to help us become better people, if we allow it to. And that's part of living on this side of why am I didn't mean to start proselytizing. I kind of just went there. I'm sorry. I'm not sorry. Also, I like the fact that they didn't have sex, which I know is part of the movie and I think was also in the comic book.
I'm pretty sure it's also in the comic.
Yeah. But I was like, yay, they didn't have sex. That was the one time where I'm like, please don't. And then they didn't. And I was like, yes. Which is weird because this show is super horny. Like this show is so horny.
It definitely is. Yeah.
Like, talking to my other Christian friends who watched it, I was like, you might want to watch out for these episodes because
So you might want to watch out for episodes 1 through 8.
yeah, like, bruh, like, the end of episode 3, like, Roxy, you gotta stop, like, bro, you
That
gotta.
was really something.
Also, the fact that she hummed the hamster dance when she left was freaking hilarious, and I
feel
did
so old.
I did not notice that the first time. Like this, it's cool how the show is full of like early 2000s, especially internet references,
Yeah,
which is really cool.
makes me feel old.
Yeah, it does make me
They-
feel a
they-
little old.
Freaking as soon as the what's it called, the Tony Hawk music, the Tony Hawk Pro Skater music comes up
Yeah.
during that one fight scene. Literally, so like I was making like dinner that night. I was doing that. I had like I'm like chopping up like asparagus and junk. Like a reasonable adult, and I have my little phone propped up like on my counter, and the music starts, and I like put my stuff down, and I start like stimming, like bopping back and forth, like let's go.
Let's go. Yeah, I love all the music choices. I think they're really good. I'm not a music
Why?
person.
Anyway, because we gonna get back to that.
Yeah, well,
But,
yeah, let me finish talking about this.
Yes, please.
But yeah, I also really love the vibes. Like I guess it's you describe the vibes as what? What did you say?
What did I say?
Because I said I wanted those vibes for Press Start, and I was like, I kind of want the Scott Pilgrim vibes for Press Start, and I think you said like the broke early
Yeah.
20s vibes.
Broke early 20s.
I really like it because it's like, yeah, Scott is. I don't know, because like reading the comic and watching the movie when I was younger, and then watching the animated series now, it's just like, yeah, it makes sense that Scott, as a 23-year-old, is bumming off of Wallace's couch. That makes sense to me. Like, it does. But it's like when you're 23, you don't have any direction in life and like don't have any money, especially if you went to well, not you, Miss Computer Science degree, but the rest of us, you don't have any money or prospects or like any idea really what you want for the most part. Like maybe you might have a couple goals, but okay. Also, Scott on Scott being a red flag, he has no job. This man does not have a job.
Yeah.
He's not looking for a job.
Yeah,
is the
like-
thing. Like if
Does-
he was
I
looking,
mean, like, does he have like any actual character development in the show? Because I feel like they kind of like insinuate a little bit of it, but also like not really.
I don't think he has as much as in the comic or the movie. Like I think he does gain like self-respect and he kind of grows up a little bit. I think that's delayed in this because okay, I think they are trying to do a second season based on like the little like end credit stinger thing that they did. If there's a season 2, I think that it is going to focus more on Scott and
Please.
because they kind of
I
like
need
got
that content.
Ramona stuff out of the way. So I don't if they're
That
going to
would
do
make
it.
sense.
Yeah, meeting his old self and kind of being like, okay, like I have to not make the mistakes that this person has made, and like listening to Super Ramona's warning of like, hey, like don't let me run away from you. Like I'm gonna not,
We're gonna try. Don't
I'm
let-
telling you.
All in chain. The second season where we're actually focusing on Scott, like, and maybe the people that are complaining about there not being enough Scott will actually shut up this time.
Okay, I'm so mad because I'm like, bro, like why would you want the same thing a third time? Like I don't know why you would want that.
Dude,
like
okay, I'm not even gonna like pretend like I know what the deep like drama lore is, or at least like what the takes are, but I guarantee like there's people out there going like, oh, this show like villainized Scott. Like, have you not consumed the other media that clearly shows that he's not a great guy to begin with?
have you met Scott?
Oh man, the amount of people on Twitter who were like freaking out, but like genuinely freaking out about the dating a high schooler thing, because like so many people are like, "Oh, he's just like me for real," and then they do the whole dating a high schooler thing, and then everyone starts backpedaling hard, and I'm like, I think you did not read the comic. I think you
Okay,
didn't.
also to run defense.
No,
run
okay, but
genius
That's
defense
the
for Scott.
first page. It's on the first page. They say, "Oh, he's dating a high schooler."
Yeah.
Page
Okay, I
one.
don't mean to run defense for Scott because he absolutely does not deserve to have defense run for him. But to be fair to him, it does mention that like they didn't kiss, they didn't do anything, they've held hands once. So to be fair to Scott, he still should not be doing that.
Basically, not as bad as you could have been awarded.
Yeah, not as bad as you could have been awarded. I will
It's
say
not.
that.
I mean, it's still yes after this one right here. It's not like
But
quite as bad.
No,
Also,
I know,
I-
I get what you mean. Basically, knives was like some rebound coping mechanism than an actual like
yeah,
abusive situation.
yeah, but it was still bad. Like that was not a good idea. I think if we get a second season, I want a full apology to Kim. That's what I want.
The apology to Knives. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have been dating you because you're a high schooler.
He said that.
Did he?
did. Yeah, he did before he said
Okay.
the
But
thing about
did
society.
He say it to Knives specifically? I don't remember.
He said he's like, hey, because he was like, hey, I should have made this realization in the first.
Oh, right.
That was not
Yes.
the time to have this realization, probably.
Yeah,
but I
I do.
probably should have been dating you in the first place. And I was
Yeah.
like, that is an
no,
apology.
but I want to hear because you were a high schooler. Because obviously that was a mistake, but like it's not clicking for him.
I was gonna say I do like how the show does incorporate stuff from the comic and the movie into it. Like
Yeah.
the movie is semi-canon.
Yeah. Bread makes you fat.
Bread makes you fat. Also the fact that like they make a movie in the movie, and the movie is the movie that like came out, but like it's a universe where the movie failed its production and never got all the way through.
Right.
Like they have the reference to the director of the original movie. He's a character called Edgar Wrong instead of Edgar Right.
Oh my
Which is
god.
really cool.
I didn't realize that.
And I think he's voiced by Weird Al, I'm pretty sure. Oh wait, I want to know who's everybody's favorite character, like Scott Pilgrim character. You can't say Scott. You have to,
Why am I not
you
allowed
have
to
to
say
pick
Scott?
something else.
But you want me to lie to the people?
What's your second favorite character?
I'm caught because I want. Because like here's the thing. Oh no, I think I'm just gonna say Wallace. Yeah, it's probably Wallace.
I love Wallace.
Because I wanted to be like, okay, well, listen, Ramona's a really great character, and they just spent a lot of time fleshing out. Wallace is funny, so Wallace. Like,
He's such a menace in this. Like episode 5, I didn't say anything to Citrine while we were watching this because I just wanted her to like experience it without any sort of warning. And I don't even remember what your reaction was, but I was just like,
I said power bottom Wallace to you, and that was basically it. Other than like the jokes that I was cracking like mid episode, I don't think I said anything.
I was like, he was an absolute menace. Like I can't believe he turned Todd gay, bro. Like what?
Man, he turned him Wallace sexual. Bro was like, I am desperate.
Yeah,
Like,
and he broke his. Okay, and the really interesting thing about the vegan thing
Yeah.
is like part of me, and I have no sources to back this up. This is just intuition. I feel like the fact that he broke his like vegan pledge is more of a reflection of how we view veganism now versus how it was viewed then.
I thought it was a joke because he was eating meat.
Well, yeah, it is, but I'm like, it's treated.
Jan got it. Let's go. Anyway.
Wait! Oh my god, bruh. I hate you.
Yeah.
Oh, maybe that's what it is. Actually, I was gonna philosophize
I think
it,
it's a reflection on how society. No,
but I think like with all the like vegan gains and like
oh lord,
all the like ridiculous vegans that are like, you know, all the memes and stuff that are popular, I feel like veganism isn't taken as seriously, so like they didn't want to like keep that there. You know what I mean?
that's crazy. Because like, of course, I don't mean any offense to people who are vegans. Who
all
are
right.
watching this
Here
video,
we
because
go.
We need the views, but I have literally, for the entire duration of my life, seen veganism as something to be made fun of. So the fact that you said that to me is shocking.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, like maybe that's anecdotal on my part, but
Yeah,
I didn't
could be
see
anecdotal
as
on my
much. I didn't see as much like if you go online, like if you go on Twitter right now, like I guarantee you can find people openly clowning on veganism
Absolutely,
in a way that wasn't there.
I'm literally like sub to a YouTube channel called Vegan Deterioration, which is literally just dedicated to clowning people who are vegan. And I'm like, okay, yeah.
Bruh.
We love you though. You should like the video.
But yeah, I love Wallace. I think he's hilarious. I really like his and Scott's friendship because it's just like the gay and straight synergy. I love that. I think that's a great friendship dynamic. And like, I feel like everyone's like, oh, Wallace is so mean. Wallace doesn't care about Scott, but it's like, okay,
Have
like
you ever had friends.
he says a lot of mean things to Scott, but a lot of them are true. That's one thing. And even though he says all these things, like he still lets Scott like live there for free, and he has no reason to let Scott back in his house because like he's
Right.
he's married and has his own life.
Right.
He's
You have
still
somewhere else to be.
like he still lets Scott like crash there to try to figure himself out. So I'm like, I think Wallace does care about Scott. He's just kind of like he doesn't do it in the way where he's like tender and nurturing, like
Right.
at least not outwardly.
Which is base, because I don't want that. Be me. Tell me
Okay.
what I need to hear. Forget about all that.
It's weird. It's like I have no particular reason to explain why, but I really like the Lucas Lee character for some reason. Like, I don't know. Like he's just fun. I really like this episode. Yeah, I don't freaking know, man. Like I just enjoy that. And then also the whole like Gideon and what's her name thing, just being like just peak evil couple vibes is incredibly fun. Freaking
Yes.
like the minute he was like, "Goodbye, I'll miss you." I'm like,
Yes.
oh my gosh, please, Lord Almighty, I need that. So also, yeah, I think I expressed this earlier, but just seeing more Matthew Patel was incredibly fun. Just because he's like just emo and dramatic, and actually, yeah, I'm just gonna say Matthew Patel is my favorite. Just seeing how much fun of a character he is on screen.
Yeah, I don't know if this was like an addition for the anime, but like they outright just be like, yeah, he's a theater kid. And I'm like, that explains so much. I love Julie. I think Like Scott Pilgrim works because all the women are mean and hot and they hate to live. Like that's why it, well, except for Knives, because one, because she's baby and she's very sweet. But everyone except for Knives, that's why the show works. And they let the women be mean. Like I don't even mean it in like a weird like SJW way, but I like how all the women are like they're their own character and a lot of them are just mean and unpleasant and like it works for their character and they're still charming characters. They're just really mean. Especially Julie, who just hates everything and everyone. But I think her relationship with Gideon is really
I love
weirdly
the
wholesome.
scene where she's like, bro, you're such a loser. And he's like, what if I told you I was concocting a plan right now? And she's like, I would say that's hot. I was like, this is peak content,
Bro,
right
I was
here.
like, you need to chill out with that line reading, bro. She was really like, the voice director said, give us everything sultry. And she was like,
Right?
bet,
She
I
said,
got,
"I got
you. And I was like, that's too much for me right now. You cannot do that. And then the cute friendship between Lucas and Gideon, I really like
Yeah.
that. That was
They
like,
were vibing.
they're two halves of an empty brain
They
cell.
had
And
a
they come
boys be
together and it
boys
makes
moment. I
nothing.
freaking loved it. And then mom came home and they were like, oh shoot.
Yeah. It was really cute. It was really interesting too. It's crazy how Lucas Lee did just kind of like lose everything because I don't think that happened in the comic or the movie. But like they all got arcs. Like that's what he needed. Like he's such a like cocky, like just like aggressive character that doesn't care about anything else. That like losing the one thing that he felt made him someone and like having to start over. Like that's great character development. And like they all have that, which is great. Like I think that's awesome. Also young Neil,
Young
head
Neil.
empty, heart of gold. Love him too. And Steven, who I feel like I share much more kinship with now than I did when I first like, because he's just trying to make his like music, like his band take off, and I'm like, yes, I understand you, King. Like I get it.
Like when I heard that the Scott Pilgrim Redemption was out, I actually had no intention on watching it for like a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
The thing that caused me to actually sit down was that as I was coming in, they were playing their song. And you might remember, I was like, wait a minute, Scott is a bassist! And then all of a sudden I was just in. Hats off to the animators, because normally instrument playing of any kind is not animated correctly, but like especially not bass playing, but they actually did it right. The only other example I can think of a character playing bass and it's like actually accurate is the Feel Good Inc. music video. Other than that,
Oh, yeah.
it does not happen. So I was like, okay, I'm in. And I just happened to sit there. I think I watched the first.
You watched the first 3 episodes
or
because
so,
you
and
saw
then I
me
had to go
screaming
back.
about episode 3.
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. They pulled me in with that one. Hats off to the animation team.
Yeah.
I think that may have also been the first thing that endeared me to Scott a little bit, but we're not here for that. My point is, the
Also,
animation
like-
team popped all the way off.
I think their band is like canonically supposed to suck, but I'm like,
They
in
don't!
reality,
Yeah.
I'm like,
No, they don't canonically
Yeah.
suck. I love them in my heart, and so you know how like Spider-Verse did that whole thing where that hypothetical Christmas album that what's his name did,
yeah.
Yeah.
or that blonde Peter Parker did,
Yeah.
that got turned into an actual album.
Yeah.
They need to take the freaking the band bomb band, and they
Sex
need to
bomb?
like
Yeah.
okay, I wasn't gonna say that word on stream,
Oh,
but
I'm
okay.
Sorry. I mean, yeah. I mean, sex is not a bad word to me, but yeah.
We have an
sorry.
editor now.
I'm not gonna have
To
him
you.
censor the
I'm
word
just saying
sex.
you can have them censor whatever you want.
I mean,
you
I'll
can have
definitely,
him censor
I'll
the
definitely
thing.
have him censor
Anyway.
you saying that word, but
You can have them censor us saying the word you want to. It'd be a very strange podcast, but like you could.
yeah. Sorry.
But
Go
anyway, I think I think that they should make like a hypothetical album that's made by them, because I'm incredibly mad that there's like barely any songs on Spotify, and the ones that are like 50 seconds long. I'm like, this is not what I want.
Yeah,
Oh,
I
yeah.
need a full rendition of the first song that they
Yeah,
sing. with
they
the band.
eat as
I
a
actually
band,
really like
like,
that one.
man.
I like the song that Envy sings too. Actually,
Yeah, that's pretty
yeah,
good.
it was good. I remember.
But that's a cover, isn't it?
Yes, but I want a full. I just it's so good. Like we're eating. I feel like adult animation enjoyers are eating really well. Like especially these past couple months.
Yeah, like I would say if
You
so-
mean November? You mean November specifically?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, Fionna and Cake came out before November, right?
Does that qualify as adult
True.
animation TM?
Yes,
Okay.
it does. It's TV 14.
Is that what the line is for adult animation TM?
Jesus! I used to bust your balls of balls. These nuts!
Overall, Scott Pilgrim's really great. Oh wait, my favorite characters. It's really obvious who my favorite characters are. I really like Roxy.
Woman.
And
You are
all
correct.
okay, to be clear, my favorite characters are all the women. That's it. But in particular, I really like Kim, and I also like Roxy, and I also like Wallace. He's very notorious. It's hard not to love him.
How come I'm not allowed to say my favorite character, but you're allowed to say your favorite character?
Because I know you're gonna say Scott, and that's
Yes,
a boring answer.
Okay, well, just because it's a boring answer doesn't mean it's not the truth.
Okay, well, your favorite character is Scott then.
Yeah, it's very much so, yes.
Yeah, it was so good. I'm like, honestly, watching it made me mad because I'm like, I need to make something this good. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just, it was like inspiring, but frustrating all at once. But I can't wait to see. Well, they're probably going to get a season 2 because as far as I know, people have definitely been watching it and there's so much buzz online about it.
Yeah.
So they're probably going to get a season 2.
I sincerely hope so.
I'd be very surprised if they didn't.
I need to lightning round Blue Eye right now because I have thoughts.
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
Let December's light brighten a path to the men I seek. Guide my steps until I find them and kill them.
So, again, I think I saw like the back half of one episode that was later in the show, and then like the beginning episode, or the beginning half of another even later episode, and then I've seen the entirety of episode 1 because I was made to watch it for this podcast.
Yeah, because I'm like, we're going to talk about it.
Yeah,
so
it's like I want
have some context so you're
Yeah.
not just sitting there.
And I'm like, okay, so visually, really good.
Yeah.
Very interesting style. You love to see it. It looks good. No notes, honestly.
What'd you think about like the characters?
I'm gonna get.
Oh, okay, sorry. Go ahead.
It really sounds like she's building it up, and then she's about to say like, and this is why it actually sucks. And I'm like,
I'm not gonna say it sucks. There's one major issue that I'm gonna get to, but like, it doesn't suck. It's really good. I recommend that you watch it. Most people, but I think that Mizu is a character super interesting.
Mhm.
I love that her her mentor can't see her, and so like doesn't really care. Like every time she's like, I have a secret. No, you don't. Like he just doesn't care. He's like, doesn't matter. I like Ringo. I think he's kind of silly. For people who haven't seen the show, this show does this weird thing called being rated TV MA, and because of that,
Oh my god.
they do some stuff like right in the first episode. Like first of all, the gore goes crazy in a way where I'm like, if animated gore bothers you, I might skip this one. There is like a whole scene where this guy gets a tooth, the roots of a tooth, implanted directly into his eye. And I'm like, yo, y'all wild for that. The gore is literally insane. And then on top of that, there's just straight up nudity. Like they don't treat it like in a way, but like it's very much there.
well, I mean,
Yeah.
they treat it in a way, but then they don't treat it in a way depending on the scene.
Yeah, it's like it's there. I could be wrong about this. Somebody could definitely correct me about this in the comments, but it's like there's the one scene in the brothel where they got like the two girls who were showing Ringo the ropes, so to speak, and like they bring the badonkadonks out, but it's not like, you know, they don't present it in a way that I think is meant to be like necessarily horny to the viewer so much as it is to the characters in universe. Or like they throw this guy out of the brothel and his dong is just out. Like it's just out. Like the first, like they throw him out, he goes rolling. And I remember being very surprised, and I turned to Tangle and I was like, yo, the dog is just out. Like it's just out. And they just treat it so casually.
And okay.
Okay. What's really funny is that very first scene that got censored for me by the subtitles.
Oh, wish that was me.
I mean, everything else wasn't censored, but that
Yeah.
specific instance was really funny.
It was really funny because before we watched the first episode, I was like, hey, like, I know you're not a kid or anything. I just want to, like, be fair and give you a content warning that there is a lot of gore and nudity in this. So, like, I did tell you.
And like I knew going in, but like I was expecting it to be hornier. Like I was just shocked because like I see them throw this guy out, and I'm like, okay, they threw him out.
I want to ask what your idea of "quote unquote" hornier is, but also I don't want to know because the show is already the amount of times I've had to use the bloody skip button. I'm like, this is making me want an Angel Tube subscription at this point.
Like it was wild because like they throw him out, and my brain goes, oh yes, he's not wearing any clothes. Then I actually look at him, I'm like, oh, he's really not wearing any. Like literally,
I'm like,
somebody had to sit down and model this man's sploinky, and then somebody else had to like texture it and everything. I was like, he's actually naked. That's crazy.
Someone had to like make it animate all that.
Yeah, exactly. Somebody had to put like
What the
actual.
worst part of that process is.
That's what I'm saying. Somebody had to like actually prepare that for animation, and I'm like, yo, I think I killed Tangle by saying sploinky.
I actually no, I know what the worst part is. Someone had to like do research for the animated scenes. Someone had to research that.
Google Images was to save search off and be like, Are you good? I think I got her with that one.
I've never heard anyone say that, and I've also never heard you say that. What
I'm trying to use alternate words here.
Ow.
I'm like, it kind of makes sense though, only because it's like they're telling a very mature TM story. Not in the sense that it's necessarily sexually explicit, but like, it makes sense. Like they're very much portraying things the way that they are.
You've only seen episode 1.
Well, yeah, but I'm like there's a difference between putting, like, you can put a sex scene in something.
Look, okay,
Oh, wait, go ahead. Yeah, go
like I'm just gonna tell you right now because I like you've only seen episode 1. It gets worse.
Yeah, but I'm like, look, there is a difference between putting a sex scene in something just to be like, and then they had sex, versus like putting a sex scene in something with the intention of it being sexually titillating to the viewer.
Yeah, I mean, okay, I would argue that.
Okay.
I want to.
I
want to watch the
I
rest
don't
of it
know
with
what
you.
the difference is.
Really, the difference is how it's presented. Like,
Well,
'Cause I'm like, I don't think
but
the
I'm not
brothel
going. I'm
scene
not
is,
going
like-
to be familiar with the scenes where it's trying to make the viewer look like that because I don't actively look for that.
I'm gonna have to come up with some examples at some point. I don't think I can do it like right now.
Because it's like,
I have to
when,
come up
like,
with some examples.
I think I'll pass.
Because I get what you're saying. Like in a lot of like like live action movies and
Right.
stuff, when they have like sex scenes in there, it's meant to be attractive to the viewer.
Right.
It's not.
Which-
It's freaking uncomfortable.
I refuse to discuss anything about this movie other than this on the podcast. But I said to you earlier that the new Napoleon movie does not do that.
Yeah.
Like, the characters are having sex. It is quite possibly the most repulsive thing ever. Like, they don't do it so that it's like super horny. I'm just like, okay, well, you
yeah,
did a
like I
great job.
think it's
'cause I'm
deliberately
repulsed.
presented to be awkward.
Yeah,
and
it's just
weird.
like, I hate it.
And they succeeded. My ovaries dried up.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. I didn't appreciate it. But yeah, Mizu's a great character.
Gosh.
Like, it's so cool because like not only does she have this issue of like, okay, I'm like mixed race in one of the most racist periods of Japan
A
ever.
fate worse than death. Yeah.
And then she has this issue where she's like, I'm a woman in one of the most sexist periods of Japan ever. So she has this weird dichotomy of like, okay, who am I as like, as far as like my ethnicity? Like, am I a devil? Am I a Japanese person? Like, what's the reconciliation with that? And like, as far as, I think Jan actually talked about this in DMs before, but it's just like this weird dichotomy of like, Mizu chooses to circumvent the misogyny of her era by just not being a woman, like
Right,
not
she's
presenting
like,
as
I
a
will simply
woman.
pretend to be something else.
And then this is minor spoilers, or this is major spoiler, whatever. But
I mean,
there's
I've seen most of the end of the thing. Like, how spoilery can we possibly get here?
that's fair. But like Akemi is a good character because she kind of does the opposite. So instead of like not presenting as a woman, she uses her status as a noble woman to kind of manipulate the men around her.
Wait,
and
is that
get-
the girl we saw at the beginning who was talking to the dad?
Yes.
Yeah, she ate.
Yeah. She's voiced by Brenda Song, by the way.
Oh.
So that's really cool. Like I think that's a really cool way to like.
Yeah, like that kind of how the both of them like operate within the society.
Yeah.
And no, the way how it is that Mizu basically acts mostly well, she kind of works more outside of the society.
Yeah.
While Akemi is using the society structures to her advantage to use everything as a puppet, essentially.
Yeah. So I'm like, that's
So
really
I'm really curious. I'm really curious to see how like she goes in season 2, because you know me, I'm obsessed with like my like political like drama / violent like vibes kind of thing.
Yeah.
So this show is very catered toward that with the whole Akemi thing going on. The way how they're kind of setting it up is like we're going to see how Akemi kind of starts being more involved in that manipulation of it. Like we see a little bit of it starting to develop after she gets married to the guy.
Yeah.
But I'm very curious to see how she continues to do that in the second seasons. I think you're the one who mentioned this, but the Shogun's wife is actually a pretty manipulative woman herself.
Yeah, the mother-in-law. Yeah.
Yeah,
She's kind of a
the
menace.
mother-in-law is pretty manipulative, so I'm curious to see if Akemi is going to be just like her, where she's also like a menace, like in a bad way,
Yeah.
or she's going to be like a menace in a good quote unquote good way. Because I don't think it's really going to be possible for her to like continue to pursue this like particular route of like leadership and rule and like kind of like political game type stuff without her kind of like compromising her morals in some kind of way, which I'm always super down for. I love seeing that.
I mean, I think in a way she kind of already compromised her own morals. If you think about her at the beginning of the of the season, she very much like does not want to get married and does not want her teeth blackened, and she doesn't want to be like the polite, like subservient woman. And like because of Mizu's actions, which is really interesting, she does have to get married. So she's kind of forced into that role, and she's like, okay, well, like she decides to take advantage of it rather than like let it defeat her. But I feel like in a way she's already kind of crossed a boundary in her own philosophy, I guess, by like even having to get married.
Yeah.
Yeah. If Mizu's on a boat going to, I guess, probably Ireland or England. I'm like, I wonder, is the whole season going to take place in Europe? I don't know. I'm like, how are they going to react to seeing a Japanese person and a half Japanese person in Europe? I don't know. It's a good question.
Well, see, I want this. Well, the thing is, like, is Mizu going to be able to like disguise herself? Is she going to like have that European drip? Which I'm going to lose my mind when I see that. But anyway,
I mean, she speaks no English, so like she really, it's going to be tough for her.
Yeah, you might be
yeah, I guess that's unless we add like because we have like a time skip. Well, we're probably either gonna have a time skip or we're gonna have like an episode where they're on the boat where it's like it shows like the time skip.
Yeah.
It's gonna take them like a good couple months to get to Europe.
Mhm.
We're talking the whole Pacific Ocean.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm not sure how that's all gonna go. It's gonna be. I'm like, gosh, I'm so scared. No, someone mentioned like a freaking theory where like I don't freaking know what's the name of the evil Irishman's name. I don't freaking remember.
Wait.
Evil Irish guy too.
Evil
Irish guy
man.
too.
But I think someone was mentioning a theory that like his dynamic with Mizu might become like a what is it, like a dark master, like maybe not dark master, not like something like as like whatever like Palpatine or something, but just that he's gonna like subtly encourage Mizu to like go down like this not so righteous path, because she's already like so hellbent on the whole vengeance thing that it could lead her in a. I mean, he's already in some way manipulated her because he got her to not end him.
Yeah.
I mean, like, oh, I can help you. Like, all he has to do is continue to like progress with that, and then trick her into doing junk for him.
Yeah.
Like, oh, hey, this guy you totally killed is totally one of the folks that were there, and it's like it's not. It's like some guy that you just didn't like.
Yeah, I'm like, you should have just killed him. Okay, it's Fowler. They call him Fowler.
Oh yeah, Fowler.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
He was also a menace. That was wild.
Fine.
Yeah.
Let me introduce you to God. I was like, okay.
But yeah, it's good. It's really good. It's a good like period drama thing.
Yeah.
I like it. And I'm like, I wonder what is the end goal there? Like, obviously they've kind of pointed out how self-destructive her like quest for revenge is. But like in a way, no one's really dissuaded her from doing it. Like even Swordfather was like, hey, like, like maybe this isn't the path you want to take, but also like if you want to make a new sword, here's how you can do it.
Here you go.
And I love how she adds, like, to blend the metal, she adds things from people that she cares about. Like, she gets, she gets the tongs from Swordfather. She gets something from, did she get something from Ringo? I don't remember.
The bells.
The bells. She gets the bells from Ringo. I don't remember if there was a third thing.
She didn't get anything from, what's his name? Tigan?
Mm-hmm. I don't think she got anything from Akemi either.
She talked to Akemi for 2 seconds. I don't think she counts.
I mean, they kind of had, like, a whole thing when they were at the brothel. Like, that was the whole thing.
Yeah, I still don't...
Is that enough to be putting materials?
No, I mean, they're not that close, no. Yeah. That's fair. But I'm like, they did spend a significant amount of time together and, like, almost died together. So, but I think it's fine that, like, I love Swordfather and I also love Ringo, so that's fine with me. But, like, yeah, she does blend metals from people that she cares about to forge the new sword, and it's like stronger than ever TM, and I'm like, that's pretty cool. But it's pretty clear that like her quest for revenge is like not super healthy. But I'm also like, it's 1633.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't know if she's ever
go kill him, I guess.
Yeah, I'm like, I don't know if she'll be able to like reconcile her ethnicity and like her own like womanhood in a time like this, because I feel like it's just not, they just didn't have healthy ideals about either. I mean, I feel like there's a way that you can do it and appeal to modern sensibility and not have it be completely like, lame. Yeah. But I think it'll be hard to do. I know Jan had brought up like her possibly converting to Catholicism as being an avenue for that.
See, that it could work. It could genuinely work. It's a very small freaking handful, but there are like, oh gosh, I have to do the actual research on it. But yeah, I found like some very, what was it? Maybe like 2 or 3 like samurai that converted to Catholicism, and I think one of them died. But I don't know.
I'm like, if they do that, that would be the most legendary move of all time. Like I would be like, guys, this is the best Christian media. Sorry. Like,
no, I want them to do it just that way. I could just give the L to all this other Christian media that doesn't know how to write a good story.
Yeah, I would double hand an L. Like, see, this is how you do it. Because I know, I know in Rookie Historian, there's a character. I don't know if it's.
Yeah, I remember that.
There's a character who defected from the royal court because they had smuggled Bibles into the palace.
Yeah, I remember that.
And like everyone was reading them, and he was like, yeah, I kind of like, he's like, well, according to this Jesus person, like we're all equal, and like there is no like difference between people of different classes and whatever. And he's like, I want to live that way, and I want to live for this person instead of like living for these like
No,
Korean ideas.
okay, but
And I was
no,
based.
but like, sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, okay, but like, see, that's the thing. That's why the whole like her converting to like either Christianity or Catholicism or whatever.
What year is
like
this?
it no, but it works thematically because it directly addresses her issues with like her demonizing her white self, and as well as like how she feels about as a woman being able to like just see how do I freaking word it? You know, like all are equal in the sight of God, that kind of thing. And the main thing is also that it addresses the whole freaking revenge obsession that she has. Like when I think of like a satisfying ending to this show, to an extent, it's like I've seen so much hurt on her end that it's like I need to see some amount of catharsis, some amount of retribution. But also, like the show is also very explicit about, hey, this causes this. Like she low-key kind of like caused a whole city to burn down. If you look at it from the whole like butterfly like effect like thing.
Yeah.
If she hadn't kicked over that like one torch, like the whole thing wouldn't have burnt down.
Mm-hmm.
So if we address like, you know, the whole revenge thing with the whole like Christianity forgiveness aspect, not so much that she's letting these evil people get away with it, but so much that like maybe she still gets like justice is still served in that kind of way, but her motivations change.
Yeah, right.
That way, you know, once that revenge has been satiated, or however you want it, once justice has been served, then she can more openly go, okay, my duty is done. I can go retire in the Irish countryside and get like a cat or something.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think you make a great point. Like I think a lot of, because I mean the quest that she's on to like kill the man who fathered her, like that's not a good quest.
Yeah, you wild for that.
Like as far as like Christianity is concerned, it's like, well, your father like gave you life, and your life is precious regardless of what like this society thinks about it. So like her revenge quest in that sense is incompatible with Christianity. So I think like if you want to end the revenge story on a more positive note, I think that is a good route to take. Also, just like she's been hurt by so many people and so many things in her life, and she never felt like she could trust anyone. I feel like that aspect of forgiveness, like forgiving herself and forgiving the people that hurt her in the past and like letting that go and starting to heal, like that would be really good. But part of me is like, I kind of want her to go sicko mode, kind of like Cyberpunk, to be honest.
Like, I want both. Well, no, because like you can have her go sicko mode on like one or two of the dudes, and then once we get that, then she realizes what she's doing is ill motivated. Then she kind of chills out. That way, we still get cathartic sicko, you know, montage. She kills a bunch of people mode.
Yeah. Okay. Right, I'm vibing.
Listen, like for this being a revenge story, it's a pretty common keystone of revenge stories that like either you quote unquote give up on the revenge or like you get the revenge and you're like, I actually don't feel any better. So I'm like, either way, I'm like, this could play out pretty good.
Because I'm like, if she does get the revenge, I feel like it'll go that way where it's like she's not gonna feel any, like she still exists, and like the pain that existing in a racist society like that it still exists. Like it's not, that didn't solve anything. Like maybe restored her honor or whatever, but like everything else is still there.
I would love to see.
I feel like that the worst like version of the story is she gets her revenge and then decides that like the way to truly end the cycle is to end herself as well.
Ooh.
Oh yeah, that's
I didn't even think of
a way
that.
that could play out.
No, because like she's going after the guy that fathered her. So in essence, she's basically saying, "Hey, you're the reason I'm here, and me being here is a bad thing." Da da da. Internalizing all of that garbage, and like. And, you know, with the whole, I think it's called seppuku or something. It's that Japanese, like, honorable suicide thing.
Yeah, when they, like...
It's like, that would, like, if you wanted to go, like, a super tragic, like, you know, hubris, don't do what this person is doing kind of story, then that's how you would end it. You would end it with her following through on those, you know, on all these things that she couldn't shake and was unable to, like, break free of as far as, like, the society around her. Which would freaking suck, but it would also hammer that in.
Yeah.
Like if they go that route, I'm gonna be pissed. But like that, it would work in a way.
Also, I will say, because I'm hating to live, that I don't really want her to personally end up in any romantic relationship. Like I've talked smack about Taigen, but I know some people want her to end up with a Kemi also, and I'm like, no, I don't want that either. I kind of
like, sorry for being anti-Taigen squad right now, but like I don't think I would love to see that.
I like, if they do it, it makes sense. Like I understand why they would do it, and I think there are steps that they could take to make it like not as unbearable.
Yeah, but like this is the same guy who like tortured the heck out of her as a kid for the crime of existing.
Yes.
It's cool if you changed or whatever, but like I don't want to be bothered. You know what I mean? Like, I
Yeah.
can forgive you without being like, oh yeah, the slate is totally wiped clean and we can date now? Like, you are crazy.
I do like the fact that there is like some implied attraction though, but I'm like, I don't think that necessarily needs to like be fulfilled.
Like, I don't want that to
anyway.
end in a relationship. It can end somewhere else.
Also, like, this is kind of a spoiler also, but I'm like, besides that episode that you saw, I'm like, this dude literally gets his crap kicked in for the rest of the show. And I'm like, I don't want.
Yeah, because there was that one part of the episode, the other episode I saw, where she's like dragging this man up a wall. Like, dude, you need to lock in and start pulling your weight. Like, come on.
You're like, you
Come
need
on.
to work. That's why I'm like, I don't necessarily like it because one, they nerfed him, so like he's a lot like he's like kind of formidable in the first episode, but like in literally all the other episodes, he like is dead weight. And I'm like, I would, if you have to do it, if you have to have Mizu end up with somebody at the end of the show, I think, and I think I told this to Yonder, or she mentioned something about it, but I was like, it should be someone who is her equal, but also accepts her for who she is.
Mhm.
And I think Yonder mentioned like kind of like her ex-husband, which you'll see that. And I think that would be good. Like if she has to be with someone, but I also think like, especially because of the society that she comes from, like I don't think that like a happily ever romantic thing would work for her. Like I don't think that would happen just because Japan is still really racist and also really sexist. I'm like, maybe if you go to Europe, maybe because they be sleeping with everybody, so maybe.
French.
I'm like, if she wants to come back to Japan, I don't think that's gonna happen. Like, I think it would be unrealistic for it to happen. But I also don't want her to end up with like, I don't want her to go to Europe because I'm like, I like this. I like this right here. I don't like this right here because I feel like the Japanese part, like obviously she's white too, so like that is like part of her identity. But so much of what she knows is Japanese, and like a lot of the cultural like stigma and issue is really like a very Japanese thing, a Japanese problem. So I don't know, but I mean, maybe she'll pull a Pocahontas. I don't know. I don't really know. This show has implied that like there is an attraction between Taigen and Mizu, and that's valid. I just don't want that to go anywhere. I'm like, y'all can be into each
Mizu's
other.
brain don't work. I'm sorry.
We'll see if you still say that when we watch the rest of it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I do feel like, because I know that I slightly disagree with Tangle on this one, because I can see how it really just depends on how it's written, because it's very much on like the razor's edge, because like you say, they keep nerfing the dude, and I feel like that's just like kind of like a modern like writing trope thing when it comes to like when you write like the strong female like protagonist, like a lot of times they kind of shaft the male side characters. I feel I feel like that if they wrote it in a delicate kind of way, I feel like you could lead up to it in a way that works. On one hand, like, you know, Mizu just living her days out like by herself does work, but also at the same time, her being able to like learn to like let people in again, I think can also be a very powerful statement, especially if like what was it? Me mentioning that, oh, like the ideal ending is her like in the countryside, like putting her sword down and being able to have like a normal regular life. Whether that is like with someone or not with someone, I think it can work.
Yeah.
And you guys make a very, very compelling argument for why, if they go that route, it could be written very terribly.
Yeah.
And we kind of already see a little bit of evidence of that. So on one hand, like, as soon as I see like the whole enemies to lovers / like, oh, I love a woman who can kick my ass trope, my brain shuts off, to be honest.
And that's fair. That is fair.
At the same time, yeah, if they write it bad, then I'm gonna be kind of coping.
Yeah, I will acknowledge that it can be done well. I think a lot of it is me hating to live because
So much of it.
I personally like, and I think both of you know this about
It's
me.
because of your freaking like headcanons about Mizu. That's what it is.
I mean, oh, shut up. It's also it is that, but also like I think a lot of stories should not have romance in them. To be honest, like I think obviously there are stories where I think it is appropriate and it does add something to the story. Certain stories, like the vibes, like I just don't think that romance should be a part of it. Like I think sometimes it actively obfuscates or makes it worse. Also, like obviously I have a personal belief that you do not need to be married or in a romantic relationship to find true happiness. And I stand by that. I think that is absolutely true. And I would like to see that represented in media, especially with characters like Mizu, who like it would be hard for her to like actually have that sort of relationship with someone. And I think she can heal and let people in. I just don't necessarily think that romance is like, I don't think that's the best way to show that, but like it could be done well. I'm not gonna say that it's not, like there's no possibility of it being done well. I'm just hating to live right now. And like I've mentioned this with a lot of other like shows and stuff where I'm just like, I don't think this character needs to end up in a romantic relationship. Like I think they should actively not do that. Or I just don't think that romance should be in this particular IP at all. But there are ones where I enjoy it. Like I love the romance in Scott Pilgrim. I think it's great. Like I think it works and it doesn't take away from the story. Like it actively adds to it. But I feel like it would just be nice to me personally if especially Hollywood would just like not always act like getting married and having kids is like the end all be all of every character's arc. That would be really nice.
Oh, I forgot about the thing that I needed to hate on.
Oh,
Totally forgot about this. Okay.
Oh gosh.
I would say I genuinely think that basically everything in Blue Eye Samurai is executed extremely well, except they keep putting these like random modern day songs in, and I'm like, why?
Okay, that's an episode 1 specific thing.
Well, I
They
think
do it in the.
I think they do it again though in the
8. Part of me wants to say 8. I don't know
because don't
why.
they do a cover of another song.
Yeah, but it's in Japanese.
Yeah, but like,
It's definitely not as egregious as the first example.
here's my issue. I don't know if you've seen Bridgerton. I've only seen like the first season of it, and
No.
And we're not
No,
saying that
watching it.
Bridgerton is good.
I'm not about to say Bridgerton is good. And what they do that's really good, and also it takes place in like, older London.
Yeah, it says Regency era London.
Yeah, when they use a lot of modern songs, but what they'll do is they'll do covers of those songs with the instruments of the time. So part of your brain in the back goes, hey, I know that, but then it doesn't like take you out of it because they use the instruments of the time.
Yeah, because they're using like classical renderings.
Yeah,
of the
exactly.
songs.
So I'm
you're
like,
not-
if Blue Eye did that, I think that would be great. But I don't remember what the song was in the first episode, but I literally
It was
went,
like-
oh, it like leaves.
It's like a classic like montage
yeah,
Yeah,
song.
like-
classic training montage song.
Never do this again. If the directors or the writers or whoever, if you ever see this, never do this again. I do not want to see this in season 2. Please, I'm begging, because it takes me out of it so aggressively.
Yeah, it also did that. I think I complained directly to Jan in DMs that I was like, why did they do that? Why did they do that?
You were literally so
I
close to
cracked
being
up when they did
perfect.
that.
Yeah, I just
I'm watching episode 1, and then the music hits, and I'm like, oh my gosh, it's Karate Kid all over
Like-
again, and I just like died laughing in that moment.
yeah, I was like, bruh, like they were doing such a good job of like
did the
building
executives
tone.
force you to do it? Like, that's the only thing I can think of.
Yeah,
Why?
like, otherwise, the series is very good at like establishing a very like a semi-serious tone and like the gravitas of the situation. And then they like, and it's a very serious moment because she just told her adoptive dad that she's like, hey, like in this society, I'm considered like less than human, and I need to do this thing in order to like regain my honor and like avenge like my cursed existence. And then you have like the weird
Right?
training
Don't be,
montage.
don't be like, I hate it here. I hate it.
Yeah, I was like, that was not a good decision. I think the one in episode 8 was done a little bit better because at least it was like a cover in Japanese. So like,
And also people were dying, so it was cool.
I did give you a look when I saw that part. I was like, there's no way. No way.
also like the people who like the creators on Twitter are like, hey, like if you want a season 2, like we need you to like tell all your friends to watch this and also watch this multiple times. So I will be watching this again in Japanese because I did want to get around to that anyway. But overall, it is a very
But
good
yeah,
series.
overall, if
I
you
think
discount
it's-
that little major thing, it's really good.
And it's
Totally
really interesting
recommend it.
because like the visual style, it's like a very stylized 3D.
Yeah.
Like I think it's probably a little less realistic than Arcane.
Yeah, Arcane is a little more painterly.
Yeah, it's like more painterly. Also, like everyone's like in proportion and like you
Right.
know what I mean. Like
Yeah.
yeah, and I think the animation's a little limited sometimes. Like the rigs seem kind of like way more simple on Blue Eye than they do on Arcane. I feel like they have like every
Yeah.
Okay,
particle rig
okay.
on
Well,
Arcane.
so, because we've seen, what was it? There's 2, every time they do this, like what is it, when the Taigen and Mizu are like fighting, wrestling, whatever, and every time they
Yeah.
like roll over, it's like this really stiff rolling animation, and it's really funny.
Yeah, I'm like some of the animation does come off like a teensy bit stiff.
I
Or
wonder
like,
what they made this in.
probably Maya.
Unreal Engine.
Because
Oh,
like,
yeah.
what?
Before we record the next podcast 3 years from now, you have to watch Big Top Burger.
Oh yeah, I need to do
You have
that.
to watch it.
Yeah.
Important.
You also need to watch Scavengers, right? I think you'd
Yes,
like
you
it.
you recommended that to me. I'll probably after
And
I
you
get through
right.
my yeah. There's so much I need to catch up on. There's so much animation.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm like it still works though. Like a lot of the backgrounds are really painterly, and I think the limited style for the most part, I don't think it takes away from
Yeah, I
what
think
they're
it
trying to convey. Apparently though, it was based on those like what are the Japanese like woodblock paintings or
Yeah,
whatever.
That's
like,
why I think it worked.
yeah.
Something we watched the same behind the scenes video,
Yeah.
but I forgot how they specified
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
a painting of the one guy who's like, yeah, that style. You know what I'm
Yeah.
talking about. Yeah, whatever you call that style.
I know what you're talking
Yeah,
about.
you know
but
exactly
to
what
everyone
I'm
else
talking
that's probably gonna sound freaking insane.
Yeah, I'm gonna see if I can like find it and then
Ikiyoi?
Isn't that the Ironic room? Yeah, the wave is one of my favorite like like ancient painting things. So I love that painting.
It was like a genuine look at Edo period Japan, which is just really nice.
Yeah, also I love the stuff about, not to be like a weeb on main, but I do love all the stuff about swords because as far as I understand, and I'm not a history buff, so someone in the comments gonna be like, well, actually, but as far as I understand like how katanas work, they're not actually as strong or as heavy as like European blades. So like the thing that makes them deadly is like the way that you distribute force when you use them. Like if you've ever seen those videos of people like modern day people like trying to slice through wood or slice through like sheaths of bamboo with their sword, and like the people who strike too hard, they can't slice through it, but the people who like distribute their weight evenly, and like there's some like physics related thing, but like the people who actually slice through that stuff, they're not actually striking the bamboo that hard.
Right.
So it's like really interesting thing about like how the stance that you take matters because it depends on how you use force on the blade and like all this other stuff, which I find really cool about katanas and like other Japanese blades. Because Europeans are like, we just hit it really hard
and
and
hit
then
it really hard until it stops moving. Yeah.
but like there's actually like as far as I understand, there's like an art to using katanas and like Japanese blades, which is really cool.
Glorious Nippon steel.
Glorious Nippon steel fallen over 1,000 times. But Blue Eye's really good. I hope it gets more attention because Netflix did not do a good job promoting it at all. Like,
Yeah, I didn't know that existed until I just saw you watching in the other room.
yeah, I think I just happened to log into Netflix one day and like I saw it and I let the cursor hover on it long enough that it started like playing the preview and I was like, oh, this actually looks really interesting. But like I hadn't seen it on Tumblr or Twitter or anything like that. And I know the fandom is trying to do a good job of like drumming up interest and stuff, but I do hope that it does get the attention that it deserves because it is really good. Like again, with like Hollywood and Netflix in general being like, hey, we spent money on this thing, but like we don't really care about it. If it doesn't do well, we'll just do a tax write-off. I'm like, can you not do that? Like that's kind of crazy. But yeah, I mean, I guess I won't really talk about Fionna and Cake because y'all haven't seen or finished it. And Invincible, I think Jan and I have seen the first season and you haven't seen any of it, so I don't see the point. Okay, what I will say about Invincible that I did point out before is that they wrote Amber better in the second season. Like I actually kind of like her, which is a shame because I honestly feel like they're not going to be endgame. Like I think he's going to end up with Eve.
Yeah, I don't know anything about Invincible.
Yeah, that's how it is in the comics.
There was this one episode. I guess something must have
But
dropped
they can-
because everybody online was hating on Amber. Like I don't know what role she plays in the story. I know everybody hates her. I was like,
Okay, so
It's just modern superhero writing. She's a victim of that and anything else. 'Cause I remember what is it? I
the Superman show.
I don't take any. Yeah, the Superman show. At least for me, I don't really see an issue with how they wrote Lewis.
Lois?
I still need to finish watching that. I forgot.
Yeah.
But the bestie has been in my DMs saying how she hates how Lewis was written and that they wrote these kind of characters better back in the day with like Spectacular Spider-Man or whatever.
Respectfully,
so I think there's like
no.
maybe there's maybe like a touch of it maybe in Louise and Superman, except they actually write her like actually making up as opposed to Amber kind of going like mental.
Yeah, okay. No, I absolutely will run defense for my adventures with Superman. I will say, okay, so one, Lois is a more charming character than Amber. Like, I think she's written in a way that, like, a lot more people, like, she's a lot more likable. But I think what they also do is that they do establish very early on that she has very, very deeply rooted trust issues, particularly because of how her dad is in the military. And, like, he keeps a lot of secrets from her, and she never really feels like he's being completely honest with her. So like when that point in the story comes, it's like the story doesn't necessarily take a side though, which is what I think is really good. Like you understand that Superman doesn't want to tell this secret because it could change the course of his life and affect the people around him. But you also understand like that Lois has been getting to know him and she's starting to trust him, even like to the point where like they are considering or basically in a romantic relationship. So like the fact that a lot of things about him are a lie, well, it's understandable. She's like, okay, well, like, how much of this is a lie to you? Like, are your feelings a lie? Like, how much of this is true? Because she has those deeply rooted trust issues. And they do have an episode or two where, like, she's kind of mad, but she still talks to him because, like, they still need to rescue Jimmy. And they do make up, too. And, like, they both I think they both do have a chance to kind of talk it out a little bit, if I remember correctly. But I think
I missed like the last 4 episodes or something.
Like I think it's done a lot better. And I think it's a hard thing to write because we as the audience, we understand why Superman is doing that. and it's not necessarily easier for us to put ourselves in Lois's shoes. So I think it does make sense that a lot of people are like, oh, well, obviously he's doing it because of this, and that. But I'm like, but if you were in that situation in reality, like, I don't know if most of you would be reacting in this way.
Again, haven't seen the show. I'm just saying, I think that literally being a superhero might be the one thing where you're just like, I think I have to give you a pass on that one.
Yeah, and
I mean, kind of big.
I get that.
Yeah, that's kind of how they used to write it. They basically gave the superhero a pass like indefinitely, but I guess like modern shows are trying to show a little bit more nuance of like, trust with the other character. And like some shows like Invincible really flop the ball.
Yeah, they
flop the ball. They drop the ball while Superman is doing a relatively much better job at it.
Yeah, and I think Amber, she's not like, okay, I just talked for like 10 minutes about how I love mean women and how they hate to live. I think that's, and I generally like that, but like Amber, just whatever the vibe was, she was not hitting it, bro. Like, I genuinely disliked her for most of the show. So when Mark is like trying to do his best to like, be a superhero and like, and still keep up this relationship, well, I understand where she's coming from. Like, if you're Amber and you're like, I just asked this cute guy on a date. He stood me up. Okay, give him a second chance. He stood me up again. Give him a third chance. He stood me up. Like, if you put yourself in her place, yeah, that's kind of crappy. Even if you are a superhero, that is still crappy. And like, I think the thing that she was mad about was not that he was standing her up, but that he didn't tell the truth about why he was doing it. So she didn't know why he was doing it. So like, that does make sense.
See, yeah, that's kind of why, like, when I first watched Invincible, I didn't have an issue with Amber until I heard enough people like kind of break down like why her kind of being still like tight butt about it was kind of a jerk thing to do.
Yeah,
because well, kind of I guess the one episode that really kind of shows how bad the attempt was that like the whole episode where they're on like the campus, and he's literally saving their lives. Like, literally fighting for them.
Yeah.
Proving that, like, yeah, he's not communicating to you specifically what's going on, but he is, like, out here saving your life. And this is at a point where you are aware that he is the guy.
Yeah.
And then her reaction is like, oh, but you didn't tell me. It's like, well, yeah, I mean, that makes sense, but also how long have you guys been dating? And also you have no idea what the context is of, like, what happens with his identity.
Yeah.
Like, do you want to be, like, a walking target?
That's also
I guess maybe, like, she's not aware of that trope. I guess
she's very like
the whole.
She comes off as very headstrong, so I think even if that's a concern for Mark, that's not necessarily something that she's worried about. She's like, I can handle myself, and I don't. And to be fair, I don't necessarily think that it was written in the best way, even if I understand all the characters' motivations. So I can kind of understand why people are upset about it, but I also think it's just like. I think it is also people hating to live. I'm not gonna lie. Like, it's a little bit of that.
I think it's a little bit of both.
Yeah.
Because I see a lot of it coming from people who are very nostalgic for earlier superhero stuff.
Yep.
Or just nostalgic for earlier media, honestly.
Also, I'm like, okay, like for my Adventures with Superman thing, it's like, okay, like if you don't like it, that's fine. But I think there should be more of an acknowledgement that it might not be for you. Like it's clearly made for like a very specific demographic of women, particularly. That I'm like, if you don't like this, it might just be because it's not for you. You know what I mean? Like you got like Superman with the shoujo bubbles and him being a baby girl himbo, like it might not be for you. Like, you know what I mean?
At the same time, though, I think we ought to acknowledge that a lot of people are ending up in that hole of, like, disliking the thing that's obviously not for them, because generally speaking, Superman media is aimed towards, literally the complete opposite demographic. So I can understand someone who's in what would be the normal target demographic being like, ooh, new Superman thing, and then it just doesn't appeal to them at all, and then they're upset about it. That I understand.
Well, then just go watch the freaking Zack Snyder movies, bro.
Well, nobody wants to watch the Zack Snyder movies.
Well, that's the Superman that you want.
Well, no, you're missing my point.
I get your.
Okay, you understand my point.
I'm just hating to live.
Yeah, you are hating to live.
They want the.
Because it's like it's meant for like Voltron girlies, anime girlies,
Don't
shoujo girlies.
Like, also, Voltron's target demographic did not have women in it.
Really?
No.
Well, I mean, okay, they did not intend for women to be in
yeah,
it.
that was like a, what's the name of that trope where it's like you pick up a
periphery
demographic.
Yeah.
Definitely. But then again, I'm like, fandom kind of rules everything, and for a lot of online fandoms, it's a bunch of women doing fan art, so I'm like...
That's what I'm saying. I'm like, you put a mostly male cast, Shiro is there, Keith is there, and you're like, oh, the main demographic is not women. Like,
It's one
bro.
of those things where it's like, especially with all the research that I have done about this show, which I would love to be able to info dump all that on a podcast, but not right now. My point is, they had a goal for a demographic, and it's like, well, of course you were going to pick up this periphery demographic because you have these things in it.
Yes.
Whereas My Adventures of Superman,
You gave
is
the
like,
guy a guy liner. Like, what do you think is going to happen?
basically.
Yeah.
But then with My Adventures of Superman, which again, I haven't seen it. What I'm saying right now is purely based on like clips that I saw trending on Twitter. But like the periphery demographic is not women. The periphery demographic is men. So you've totally flipped, the people you're trying to sell to, which will cause some confusion. I understand that.
I mean, y'all got Lois.
Now that being said,
Lois bad.
anyway, that being said,
I mean,
think
bad isn't good, by the way.
once you realize that you may not be in the demographic of the thing, if you don't want to watch it, you can just go ahead and not watch it. But if I ask someone, hey, what do you think about this show? And they're like, well, it wasn't what I wanted. I was like, okay, I can understand it.
Yeah, there's a difference between something not being what you wanted. Ooh. There's the difference between something not being what
pick something up off my desk.
there's a difference between something not being what you wanted and it being bad. Like
Of course.
if Blue Eye does end up doing a romance at the end of it and it's done well, I will acknowledge this is not what I wanted, but it's not bad,
Yeah.
If they do it right. If they don't do it, you're getting this L. But that's the thing that like irritates me about the My Adventures with Superman things. It's like this is very clearly like not made for certain people, and if you don't like it, that's fine. But like, it doesn't make it bad.
No, it's just make it bad. Especially, I think the more history the thing has, the more likely you are to run into this problem.
Yeah.
Superman is like one of the oldest IPs.
Because you have folks who want to have like the IP remain like that legacy IP for forever and ever and ever. When comic book characters are literally the most inconsistent like characterizations you're ever going to see.
Yeah, like, hey, this is relevant. I was looking at like old Voltron forum stuff, and there was this person who was like, I literally saw this show when I was a kid, and he like hated Legendary Defender. Like he hated it, mostly for pairing stuff, but more on that later. But I'm like, with Superman, there are like 4 iterations of Voltron. There's like 50 iterations of Superman. So if you've been following it for that long, I feel like the rage builds up to like a higher amount.
Yeah,
Or something.
it's partially understandable, but also get good. So.
Yeah, at some point you have to be like, okay, this wasn't for me.
I love Himbo Superman. I love Baddie Lois. I think they're great. I love Jimmy. He's rich now. He's a millionaire.
I like how he doesn't have like a descriptor. It's just I love Jimmy. Like I love Himbo Superman. I love Jimmy.
I mean, he is the world's best friend, world's best friend. So there's his descriptor. He's great. He's also a millionaire now. He got his bag.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Slight spoiler, I guess.
Sorry, it's not really a huge thing though. Sorry.
Yeah, it sounds like an afterthought.
Yeah, but I love that show. I will die to defend that show. I'm not gonna lie. But I hope we also get a season 2. Which is okay, it's really interesting, that show, because it's technically an Adult Swim show, but it's rated TVG. Oh.
It's like the worst part of the show is when his like skin is glistening because he was blocking a shot or something.
That was funny as frick. Sorry, I thought that was hilarious. I'm like, first they had them like slightly undressing, and then like not like that, bro. And then they had the like weird glistening thing, and then they had like Superman like picking her up, and she was like, "Oh my gosh!" Blah, blah, blah. And Jimmy's just like standing there, kind of like, "All right, y'all, let's get a room." But I love Jimmy. But yeah, so if no one has anything else to say, this recording is like an hour and a half. I won't talk about Fionna and Cake because I might make a separate video about it because I have a lot of feelings about it. A lot of positive, but also a lot of negative feelings.
Yeah, I'm probably just gonna sit down and watch that as soon as we're done.
Yeah,
TBH.
let me know what you think. And clearly, you want to go to bed.
Yeah, I want to go to bed. All right, well,
Okay.
thanks for watching the video. If you like this video, you should like this video. And if you didn't like this video, you should probably still like this video.
You should check out our other social media. We have like Instagram and Twitter and Tumblr. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
at some point we'll post some animation.
I mean, I have kind of been posting.
Yeah, but like,
Like finished animation?
yeah,
finished
like
stuff?
more. Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe by the time that this recording is out, there'll actually be like a bunch of
Yeah, the
animation.
Pippa
in it.
pilot
Like, so
will
much
just be
animation,
out.
more than what you know to do with.
Yeah. Yep. But yeah, thank you guys for listening. Let us know your thoughts about Adult Animation 2023 in the comments. If you thought any of our takes were frigid, please let us know.
I promise to come argue with you in the comments.